Maine and Vermont are famous for their maple syrup, but St. Louis can join in on the fun too. And here to tell us about Rockwoods Maple Sugar Festival is naturalist Samantha Stolle. And we're looking at Little House in the Big Woods. So most of us think of maple sugar from our prairie days, right?
Yes.
And Laura Ingalls Wilder. And you were telling me there's 2 chapters in this book devoted to making maple sugar.
There is, and it's kind of a timeless tradition. It's been done by the Native Americans who then told all of our colonial ancestors about it, and it's been done even out at Rockwood since the 1800s.
Oh, that's neat. So this is a long-standing tradition. And you guys are still doing it. You're going to do it next weekend.
Yes.
And we can come out and learn, but do it also in our own backyard.
You can, yeah, and it's a really neat way to get out in the winter. A lot of times in February and January, these prime maple sugaring months, you don't think of being outside, but I know for me it's a great motivation to get up early and go check my buckets and see how much sap the trees have made.
So will people leave the event with maple sugar to take home or maple syrup? Or?
Well, they'll be able to get a sample of both maple syrup and maple sugar, which is then the syrup that's cooked down a little bit further. And then they'll leave with the knowledge to be able to make their own.
Okay, neat. So tell us about, you've got lots of tools here and things. So how does it work? What's the process? Okay,
well, the process itself is actually pretty simple. You take the sap from the tree, boil it down and filter it, and then can it. But it is a lot of hard work, I'm not going to lie. So the first step, you have to know how to identify your trees.
Right, you don't want to tap the wrong kind of tree.
Right. Well, luckily, you can tap any deciduous tree in Missouri just about, but you're going to be boiling for a long time because the sugar maples have much more sugar in the sap, which is what we really want. So, you know, when you think about identifying trees, you think of the leaves. This time of the year, of course, there's no leaves on the trees, so you have to be a little more creative with your identification. And there's all kinds of dichotomous keys to help, and online resources as well. But one thing that people look at is the bark. It's got bark that kind of peels away, and then the ends of the branches are opposite the way that the tree grows. So when I do school programs, I make the kids stand up and be trees. And to be a maple, we put our arms out like this and have our opposite branching versus an oak, which has the alternate. So it has this opposite pattern. Right, for every one branch, there's a corresponding. And then the terminal buds, where the tree actually grows from, are dark brown, pointy, with 2 little wings.
Okay, so but if we go to Rockwoods, to your festival, you already have the trees identified.
Yes, we have a whole, we do.
Another good reason
and we do encourage people sometimes in the summer and spring and fall when the leaves are on, it's a little easier and they can mark it then. But we have a whole section of identifying the trees. And then you have to make sure it's big enough to tap. Yeah,
okay, so talk about that, because I know I have a little maple sugar tree in my yard, but it's like this big.
Right, so it has to be 10 inches in diameter across, and you can use that with a Biltmore stick or measure circumference. And then for every 10 inches, you can put 1 tap in the tree. We don't recommend putting more than 3 taps in the tree, just because it takes too much from the tree, and the sap is its blood.
Okay, so of all these tools here, which one is the tap?
So all of these are different types of tap. We've got a tap for tubing, and then these are both taps. One's just a little bit bigger than the other. So you literally, for this one, it's 5/16 of an inch. You take the drill bit, drill into the tree, put this into the tree, wherever you're going in, literally tap it with your mallet. That's where the tapping comes from. And it'll start to flow out of that right away if the conditions are right.
So, and it doesn't hurt the tree?
It doesn't. In fact, when Native Americans were doing this, they were not using as conservative of practices, and they just slash it and let the sap drip down. But we found over time that having this 5/16 of an inch or even 7/16 doesn't harm the tree. They'll leave a little scar, but it comes right back.
Okay. So how long does it take then? So you tap it and you've got the drip starting, right?
Sure. And
so then what happens? You use your bucket? You have a bucket?
Sure. You hang the bucket. There's a nice hole on the back that hangs right here on this handy clip. So it'll just hang there, and we put lids on our buckets so no precipitation or creepy crawlies or anything gets in there. But it depends on the conditions. So for maple sugaring, for the sap to flow, you want it to get below 32 degrees at night and above 32 in the day. So that freeze thaw is what really gets the sap moving through the xylem and phloem of the tree, which will end up with most sap in your buckets. So some days we go out and check and there's an inch in there. Some days we go out and it's overflowing.
Really? So it really has to be exactly the right temperature in the winter. It can't be those super cold, bitter days. But,
right. And so that's ideal for pretty much the entire month of February here in Missouri. Usually the production of sap will change in the 2nd week of March. You'll notice your sap goes from being this water, which it really is mostly water. In fact, it's 97% water. For sugar maples, it's about 3% sugar. But you'll notice it'll start to get cloudy in March, and that's when it's not making as much sugar. It's putting its energy into making
clear
the
is
leaves.
good, and then you boil it down.
Then you boil it
end
down
up with the sugar.
Well, and you can end up with either syrup or sugar, and it kind of depends on what temperature you heat it to and the process that you're using. So there's historic ways to do it. We have all these new modern ways, and we'll have all of these examples at the festival actually up and going. You can see the process, you can be a part of it, and then have samples.
Okay, and we're going to take a quick break right now, but we'll be back with more information about everything you can do with maple sugar. So don't turn that dial. We'll be back with more Maple Sugar Festival news after this break.